Okay, so we're looking at the introduction to Hamlet, and one of the major themes we'll see is the concept of madness. And what does it mean to be mad? What does it mean to be sane? And so I want to start by looking at this poem by Emily Dickinson called Much Madness is Divinest Sense. Very short, but we're going to take a close look at it. And I'm modeling this for you so that you know the kind of analysis and the level of thought that I like you to put into analyzing poetry, even for a poem as short as this. Much madness is divinest sense to a discerning eye. Much sense, the starkest madness. 'Tis the majority in this, as all prevail. Assent, and you are sane. Demur, you're straightway dangerous, and handled with a chain. So a couple of things stand out to me, and the first is this idea of paradox. So I gave you a few questions to consider, and I'm going to walk you through those. Paradox in the very opening line, to be mad is to be crazy, right? And yet Emily Dickinson has said that it is divinest sense to be mad. So this is the utmost wonderful, most godlike thing to be crazy. Why? Why is being crazy good? And so that's a question that we start to ask ourselves about not fitting in with the majority and conforming to the way that most people think. Now, as we get ready to start Hamlet, you're going to want to think about how Hamlet himself goes against the majority of the court in Denmark, in the state of Denmark, and sees his uncle for the serpent that he is, rather than this great leader of the Danes. All right, so then I also asked you to look for where we see alliteration. So I see much madness, that stands out to me. I also hear this S sound, madness is divinest sense, which we call consonants. So I would look at that with the madness, divinest sense. I can hear that. And then I also said, look at the mirrored language that we see in line 1 and line 3. So Dickinson begins the poem with much madness is sense, and then follows it with much sense is madness. And so she shows us the opposite idea of sense and madness. She juxtaposes those two and indicates that really when you are mad, when you are starkly mad, then this actually might be when you are the most sane, thinking for yourself rather than following the majority that prevails in everything. All right, so a few more questions I gave you. The connotation of the word demur. Now, to demur is actually to show objections or to protest, and yet when we think about that, it's not really a word with violent undertones. Demur is a little more passive, and so we wonder why this extreme reaction of you're straightway dangerous and handled with a chain, right? Why do you have to be taken away with a chain just for going against the majority? And I said demure and dangerous are a little bit oxymoronic because protesting, speaking your mind, doesn't automatically make you dangerous. Then the last thing I wanted you to look at is this idea of a chain. And there are a couple things that come to mind. One is an insane asylum and being chained up and taken away like you're crazy. And so that goes with the idea of madness, that we lock you away. And we know that in the 1920s and 30s, many people would be taken off to insane asylums just for having different ways of thinking. Maybe you remember that from your reading of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Of course, Dickinson was writing this poem earlier than that, but many people did see her reclusive behavior as crazy and weren't really sure of how to handle or deal with her. And the other image that I get is that of slavery, and this idea that when you speak out, we want to silence you, and so we put you into a position of oppression and subordination. And so all of this relates back to how will we handle Hamlet and his mad state of mind, or if he is really mad, that's another question we'll look at. Thanks for listening.